Hey, how's it going? My name is Mr. Fenner. I'm a teacher in Texas teaching U.S. history and reading, and today I'd like to share something I made with you, see if maybe you'd be interested in it. Although I'm a teacher and a coach, one of my biggest other hobbies is Dungeons & Dragons, and I've been looking for a way to make history a little bit more fun and engaging and interesting for the students. And one of the things I did is I decided to try and take an event in history and turn it into a Dungeons & Dragons game, see if the kids would like it. And so that's what I did. So this is going to be the first of hopefully many that I'm going to try, but I took World War I trench warfare and I turned it into a one-shot that you can play using modified Dungeons & Dragons rules with your classroom. Playing Dungeons & Dragons in the classroom and teaching your kid through Dungeons & Dragons, it's a lot of fun. And you get to have a lot of fun with them, and they get to learn at the side. I took everything you need to teach World War I and turned it into one week-long unit with all the causes as a PowerPoint slide with notes, the trench warfare simulation, which would take 1 to 2 days depending on how long your classes are, and then the effects of World War I, package it all in one nice little unit, and I'm going to put it up somewhere, and I'm going to sell it eventually and see if anybody's interested in it. Let me show you what it comes with. So I went ahead and printed some copies ahead of time and showing you everything that comes with it. The notes and the slides for before and after aren't in here yet, but this is everything you need to run the trench warfare simulation. Now, if you've never played Dungeons & Dragons, you don't need to worry. I've actually included step-by-step instructions that any teacher can follow that will take care of everything you need. I have a list of what you need to print, how many of each copies you need to print it, etc. The only thing you need to do is find a 20-sided dice. You can buy them online, or you can even go on Google and search 20-sided dice roller, and Google has its own dice roller for you. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about what's inside. What I did is I've printed and laminated a lot of this stuff already because I'm planning on using it for a long time. But these all come as digital PDFs, and then you would be able to print however many you need. And the instructions even include what to print, how many of each copy to print, etc. for your classroom. So the first thing that you're going to find is actually this little note saying thank you for your supporting me and purchasing. It comes with some terms that you might not know if you're not familiar with Dungeons & Dragons, like Game Master or 20-sided dice. It has a full inventory of everything, and this includes how to use it, what order to do it in, or at least a recommendation. And then this will tell you what comes inside and then how many of each copy to print. So for example, the character sheet, you need one for every student. The player cards, you just need one per group. The random event sheet, you just need one copy as a teacher. The teacher instructions, one copy per teacher. And then the slides, you don't need to print it all. You can post them online as a PowerPoint, or you could put them on Canva or Schoology or whatever online program you use. And then you have the notes and slides that go with it. There are also a couple enrichment additional activities because being a reading and writing teacher, I wanted to incorporate some reading and writing into the activity as well. So I have an essay prompt that's a long form constructed essay, as well as a poem called Green Fields of France about World War I that they analyze and then answer short constructed responses about. Now at the bottom it says the quote, there are 20 sides to every story. This is a reference to D&D is storytelling, and the dice tell a story as you roll. If you roll a success, that's going to change the story. If you roll a failure, that's going to change the story. How much of a success or how much of a failure changes the story, and that keeps it interesting and makes it more fun for the kids and adds a little bit of luck and randomness to it. The notes and the slides I didn't bother to print out right now because they're all digital, but it includes all the notes you need and slides for causes and the aftermath of World War I. It also includes notes that include hard copy of the notes for kids with accommodations, as well as fill in the blank notes depending on your level of kids. I teach 5th grade, so we do fill in the blank notes most of the time, but if you wanted to do them as Cornell notes, you just don't print those out. This, however, this is what you need to actually run the game. So this is, you never played D&D before, you have no idea what you're doing, you would just follow this step by step and it would explain exactly what to do. So as you can see, there's a setup, how to get your kids in groups, a couple tips during the game. Here's how the game works. Here's how a round works. Here's how it goes. Here's how a skill challenge works. And all of the rules are a very simplified version of Dungeons & Dragons. It only uses a 20-sided dice. So through the process of playing, what would happen is the group of players would be given a situation. So for example, you're just arriving on the Western Front and you need to find a trench. You can fight for one, in which you would lose some soldiers and lose some health. You can try and dig your own, which would come with its own challenges, or you could try and find and reinforce one that's already been there. And all of those choices they can choose from, each one has their own difficulty, and then they would roll to see if they succeed or fail. If they succeed, they would gain benefits like morale or ground, and if they fail, they might lose morale or lose health because of soldiers dying. A group would represent one unit in the military, so a single soldier doesn't die and then the kids are out of the game. They would still play the rest of the game because it's a whole unit instead. But essentially, this would walk you through the process step by step. And then on the final page, this tells you about how to adjust things on the fly, which if you're experienced in Dungeons & Dragons, it's a lot of improv, and it can be a lot of fun to change things up. And so the random events can be used for balancing if something is getting a little too out of hand. or you can add in extra details, or if kids have a really cool idea and you want to let it happen, there are ways to do that. And then at the end of the game, I'm a competitive person. There's a way to tally up points and see who actually did the best and who did the worst. And then, again, step-by-step instructions. So this will walk you through the entire game. Next, we have the player cards and the character sheet. I tried to make the character sheet look Dungeons & Dragons-esque. It has their name, date, and homeroom so that you can track their, if they turn it in. Their character name, which we'll get to in a second, what role they are, which we'll get to in a second, which side they're on, as in allies or central power, and what their home country is. And then they have a tracker for their health, morale, and ground, the 3 ways that they can win the game. So health represents the general healthiness of a soldier or the unit in general. If, let's say, a soldier steps on a landmine and they fail their check, then they would lose a health bar, and they have 20 health to represent the health of their unit. The morale starts off at 5, and they gain morale by doing things good, and they lose morale by doing things poorly, or having bad results. And sometimes the dice just don't go your way, and so the morale kind of represents that. The ground is actually strategic choices they can make to give up or gain ground in order to get different advantages later on, which is explained in the game, so don't worry about that too much. And so this just helps them track it. Now, to hold every single kid accountable, to make sure that they're engaged and paying attention, there's also a part where even though they're working as a group, they individually have to record what choices they made, what the results were, and etc. So this is 1 per kid, and they would follow along as they go. Okay, the player cards, I printed these 4 to a page, cut them out on cardstock and laminated them because otherwise the kids are going to destroy them. These come with a rank, a name that's actually pretty historically accurate, although it's not real people, their home country, what their role was, what a personality so they can role play that person, and even a quote to give them an idea of what they did. And they would fill this information in on their character sheet, and then they would become this person. Now, there's a role for each one. There are 6 roles. You could be a supply officer, a radio operator, a scout, a sniper, a medic, or an engineer. Part of the game that I actually purposely did is if you only have groups of 4, you have to leave 2 of those roles out, and the kids have to decide which one of those roles sound like they're not important enough to keep, and which one would you give up if you could only have 4 players. Now, if you have more or less kids, you would just use all the cards or less of the cards. There's a set for allies, and all of these, again, are based on real-esque people that would be historically accurate. So you've got Sean O'Reilly from Ireland, a guy from France, a guy from Scotland, another guy from France, a guy from England, and another guy from France. And then there are German and Austrian equivalents for the central. So you've got Eric Schaefer for Germany. You've got another German, since Germans are mostly the ones on the Western Front, a couple from Austria-Hungary. And so there's a sniper on the central side, and there's a sniper on the ally side. And so these would be the characters that the players become. Now, as a little trick, what I like to do is after I laminate them, I'll put them in a baggie and hand them to the group. And your free tip of the day, if you're doing baggie handouts, cut the bottom corner. What that does is, I know many teachers have had where like the air is stuck in there and it gets stuck. This actually is small enough that the cards aren't going to fall out, but then it's big enough to let the air out, so your bags are always flat. All right, and the last part of the game is the random events. The random events are made to be used whenever you feel like it, whenever you need to mix things up. There are 10 bad events, and there are 10 good events. So the bad events start a skill challenge. So let's say I roll a 3. Trenchfoot. Trenchfoot, it explains what Trenchfoot was, and then it allows a skill check. If the players chose a medic, they can try and treat that soldier, but if they fail, they lose a heart due to infection. There are also good benefits. So if, let's say on 13, your team has captured a spy, and as an effect, you get to gain 1 ground because of the valuable intel that they provided. So these can be used to mix it up. You can specifically choose them. Let's say you have a team that's about to lose. They're 1 HP left. Well, you can pick a random event randomly, quote, air quote, and give them some health back, for example. You can also just leave it random because of the chaos of war. And so each round, or just whenever you feel like it, you can just roll a 20-sided dice, and whatever number you get on the dice, you do this to the whole class, and then they have to respond to it. This adds an element of fun and chaos and luck that, makes it more interesting. All right, and then these are the last 2 things I have right now. This is some enrichment, additional things, because I'm a reading teacher and writing teacher. So afterwards, as a debrief, I would use this star-like essay topic to have students write about what they learned in the experience. And then there's some space provided. And then this, because a reading teacher again, I took a song called Green Fields of France, or called No Man's Land, and made it as a poem. And they analyzed the poem, and then there are 5 short constructed responses that they could write as a response to those. And you could pick or choose, or you could have them do all of them. You could analyze it using whatever method you want. For example, we use TPCast, but maybe you don't use TPCast, maybe you use a different style. So these are extra things you can do. And if you're just a history teacher and you don't want to do it, cool. You can also listen to this. One of my favorite bands, Dropkick Murphys, actually did a version of this song. And that would be a really good song to show to kids while they're coming in from wherever during rotation. So this activity was a whole lot of fun. The kids absolutely loved it. They were begging me to do another one, but I have to make it from scratch. So they loved it. Some of the writing that they've done is some of the best writing they've done all year, doing those essays as a formative assessment after the fact. The questions that they were able to answer, they truly learned the content. And it was in a way that was fun and engaging, and they cared about it, and they were invested in it. And that gave them like a leg, that gave them, a dog in the fight. So they were more invested in it. I am planning on making them for a bunch of events. I already kind of thought the next one I was wanting to do was maybe Jamestown. Although I started with World War I because that's what I happen to be doing next right now. But I'm planning on kind of backtracking and going and doing other events that I haven't done yet because I've already covered them in class this year. So if you're interested, if you'd like to purchase this, if you'd like to do it, I'd love to get some feedback from some people who have played it. I'd love to see other people use this, and I'm happy to share it. I'm not sure yet how exactly, whether it be on Teachers Pay Teachers or through subscription on TikTok, but either way, I'm going to post it eventually, and I'll let you know when. And if you're interested, let me know. Maybe give me a message and follow me for updates. Thanks.